Hi, you're welcome to my channel. My name is Hannah and I'm a front-end developer in Ghana. Today I'm going to be talking to you about front-end and introduce you to the topic of front-end development. If you're new to this, you may be wondering what is front-end, but don't worry, I'm going to explain everything to you in the minutest detail that I can and also help you to get started in it, so stay tuned. So you may be wondering what is front-end. Now front-end is basically the UI that you see on your website. So the UI I mean is the user interface. Now when you load a site for the first time or even any site that you already have, you can see that we have buttons, we have images, we have paragraphs, we have a scroll. Everything that you see that you are able to interact with is the front end of a site. So front end basically deals with the UI of a site and also helps in the transfer of data or the controlling of data around the site or the pages that you load on the site. So that's basically it for front end development. Now that we know what front end is, let's talk about what tools we can use to get started in front end. Now firstly, we are going to use HTML, which is the hypertext markup language, which makes up the structure of a site. So it composes of every element that is being used on the site, where we have the paragraph, the imaging, the button, and a lot more. So basically the HTML is what every other thing is going to sit on because it composes of the structure of the site. Now we move on from there and we talk about the CSS. With CSS, it deals with how to make the site beautiful. So if we want to add any red button or a dark text or anything like a font, or we want to make this bold or we want to make this small, we do everything like that on CSS. So that is basically what CSS does. CSS actually goes a long way into making your site very attractive. It gives it this warm look and very satisfying aesthetics, like animations or a transition that you want to do on a screen. So that is basically what CSS does, making the site more beautiful because HTML alone is so static. Let's talk about the next tool, JavaScript. JavaScript helps us to be able to handle data that is being passed around the site. So let's say if we want to do an event handling or want to click on a button, we say that JavaScript, please alert me when I click on this button, or please show me this data when I click on this button. So JavaScript also helps in being able to manage every data that is being passed around on the site. So we want to move this data from the first page onto the last page. We handle all that with JavaScript, and that helps in making work very easy because we can't do all that with just HTML and CSS. Now that we have looked at the basis of everything that has to do with front-end development, you may be wondering, is this going to get me my first developer role just like I uploaded here? Now relax. We can't just say that we are ready to start a role in front-end development because the world is advancing and we need faster tools to be able to do complex things. That is where libraries come into play or frameworks come into play. On the topic of libraries and frameworks, there is React JavaScript, there is Vue, and there is Angular. I'm going to recommend that you learn React JavaScript because it proves to be one of the tools or the skills that gets people hired quickly, and so it's better that you position in yourself that you can get hired fast as possible. Now you can also learn the other ones, but make sure that you are good in React too. One thing I'm going to be advising in your journey into becoming a front-end developer is to master each step before you move to the next one. So say you want to start in HTML today, make sure that you understand a lot about HTML before you move on to study CSS. The same with studying CSS, make sure that you understand everything that you need to understand before you move on to JavaScript. Now I find that people just learn one or two things about CSS and then they come back and say that CSS is difficult. I personally don't find CSS difficult because I find that it's something that has to be done based on your understanding. If you understand CSS and how it should work, it should be easy for you. So make sure that you learn every step very well before you move on to the next step. It is definitely not possible to become the perfect CSS person or the perfect JavaScript person before you land your first developer role. It's highly impossible. It's very difficult to even get through with JavaScript, but you have to make the effort to be able to learn most of it. Like, do your best to be able to learn a lot of things that you can learn and then move on to the next step of using, let's say, a library or a framework that you can use. I am going to sign off by saying that if you really want to learn front-end development, just go for it, because it's one of the skills that people are looking for. I will sign off by saying that if you really want to learn front-end development, first of all, learn what you have to learn and subscribe to my channel. So thank you very much, and stay tuned. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.